Hi everyone, good afternoon. Welcome to iUniversity. Welcome to Data Science Bootcamp. This is our 11th edition, 11th demo day. Welcome. In this very first time, I would like to thank two people very, very important for us. On the one hand, Ivan Martin. Ivan is our academic director. Ivan, thank you so much because you are the designer of this bootcamp. Thank you for your knowledge. Thank you for your support. Thank you for everything. Seriously. And on the other hand, Annette Damata. Annette is our coordinator. Thank you for your support, for your dedication to accompany the students in this learning journey. Thank you so much, obviously, to the professors. You are essentials. We are very proud because we think you are the best professors that we have. Okay. And thank you so much to the bootcampers, to the students. They are very nervous. I guess they are very nervous, but I think they have worked very, very hard last 3 months. And probably 12 weeks ago, they knew nothing about programming, about coding, about Python. I don't know if maths and stats, probably. And today, they can respond to give solutions to some different companies of 2 different industries. And I'm sure that your presentations will be superb, will be awesome. And finally, we have today a special jury, an excellent jury. Okay, I have to read your CV, sorry, but it's a jury made up of 4 people. In the first time, we have, well, obviously, we are very, very lucky because you are here today with us. It's a big pleasure. The first member is Ina Sashoguk. Ina Sawoshuk. Ina is a senior data product manager in Levi-Strauss company. It's a company of, it's a clothing company, okay? She works at office in New York, okay? Welcome, welcome. And we are very, very proud. We are very proud because Ina is alumni of this program, okay? And we have also Antonio Cantalapeda. Antonio Cantalapeda is co-founder and executive president of the board and CEO of Webinars. It's a company of refund, of free tax. And in fact, he was the founder of My Taxi, okay, you know. And the third member is Alejandro Hernandez. Alejandro comes from Amazon Web Services startups managers. They help to different startups in the world. And finally, our fourth member is Ivan Martin. Ivan is CTO at Beamfluencer, and he is our academic director in this bootcamp. I would like to introduce you two because Ivan now will explain you the projects that our bootcampers are going to present today. Okay, thank you so much, Ivan.
Great, thank you, Marcelino. So, as Marcelino was saying, welcome everyone to today's demo day. This is the 11th edition of the bootcamp. We're very proud of piling them up. We're accumulating a lot of alumni. I also want to thank everybody who's watching us online tonight. Tonight, we'll see, from all over the world, so it's night everywhere. I'm very proud of all of the work that you guys have done. It's been, as Marcelino was saying, 12, 11 weeks, where 11 weeks ago, probably when you received these challenges that you were going to be presenting today, you probably kind of struggled a little bit, like, how do I do this? Where do I start? No? The intention of this whole process of giving you this challenge at the very beginning was to create this deep need to learn everything we're going to teach you. No? Because you need it to be able to solve the challenge, right? So today we're going to see the result of that. I think you guys have worked extremely hard and you guys have done an amazing job. And I'm not saying this just out of cheering you up, which I also want to cheer you up. But the idea is that I know you've worked extremely hard. And this is kind of the philosophy of the bootcamp. So I'm very proud that you guys have done that. We have today 2 groups that we're going to be presenting. The first company is going to be MRM McCann. And the second company is going to be Urban Data Analytics. You guys are going to have to explain us the meanings of the projects that you were presented with, and we're supposed to understand end to end. And the jury today will give their ideas, their opinions, what do they think about the projects you've done. But the most important thing that you have to do today is enjoy this. It's meant to be an experience to relax, expose all the amount of work that you've done. Probably it's impossible that in those 15 minutes you will present everything that you've done. Like, you've done a lot more work that can fit in 15 minutes. So relax. You know a lot more than you could ever be asked about, right? So relax about it. Enjoy. It's actually like a very, very good experience to be able to expose this and summarize all of the work you've done, everything you've learned in such a short period of time. And as you will see, the jury will be extremely thankful and very nice to you guys, so don't worry about it. But do your best, and I want to thank you for all your work you've done. So let's go for it. Let's start. First group, MRM McCann.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the demo day. Today, thanks to the collaboration of MRM McCann, the Dream Team and I are going to show you the insights of our final Capstone project. But first, let me introduce you to the Dream Team. We have Patricia Colleagues, Claudia Antola, Gabriela Trenting, Andres Morales, and myself, Andrea Cordero. Today, we want to have a really serious talk about loyalty, and also a little bit of shopping, don't worry. Actually, as you already know, customer perception towards ads has been changing really much. This is because marketing campaigns have evolved drastically since targeting really broad groups of collectives of people like women, men, or children towards focusing on you, on the individual. Brands across all sectors are pushing harder and harder to get your attention. In this project, we have focused on the furniture sector, which is no exception to these changes. Actually, they face a double challenge. First, they have to acquire customers, and then they have to really work hard to retain them and keep them engaged. It is crucial for them to pivot. On a more serious note, let us walk you through the journey that we're going to take you on today. First, we're going to introduce both our client and the company we've been analyzing. Then we're going to give you some context on the business challenge we proposed. And finally, we're going to present our solution and the impact it had and next steps. Let me pass the mic to Claudia, who's going to do the introductions.
Thank you, Andrea. Okay, so first of all, let me introduce you to our client. MRM, which is part of the McCann Group, is a global marketing agency. And in fact, it's been recognized as the leading company in their industry according to Gartner. And they have offices all over the world. And in fact, here in Madrid, they have a data science base comprised by many data scientists. And among them, Juan and David, who were the ones helping and guiding us throughout this journey. So during the bootcamp, we had to analyze and improve retention problems in a furniture retailer in Spain. This furniture company generates over 10 million euros revenue per year and provided us with more than 2 million transactions from 2014 to 2018. So now let's move on to the context. So let's meet Maria. Maria, she is the sales and marketing director of the furniture company, and therefore our link with her client. She's worried because she's realized that over the past year, the company is losing more and more loyal customers. So as you can see in the table, new customers that registered in 2015, half of them never came back in 2018, suggesting a retention problem. But how do we measure retention? So first of all, we need to understand the concept of churn. And what is churn? Churn is the portion of customers who have decided not to come back to our stores anymore over a period of time. But why are we focusing on churn? So, first of all, because as Bain & Company says, it is 5 times more expensive to focus on acquiring new customers rather than focusing on the keeping existing ones. Improving that retention also helps improving brand image, and it also creates a sense of community. But we also need to help understand Maria, who are the customers that bring the most value to our company. So here is where I wanted to introduce you to the customer lifetime value, also known as CLV, which is the potential revenue that a customer may generate over a period of time. So for example, this customer who buys very frequently and large is going to be expected to have a higher CLV than a customer buying not that frequently and too little. And now I'm going to pass it over to Patty, who's going to explain the challenge.
Thank you, Claudia. So let me talk about the challenge. We met with Maria, and she left us with 3 key tasks to address. First one, we need to define who are our customers. We did that by customer segmentation. The second one, we need to define who are our favorite customers that we want to focus on, where we calculated churn and lifetime value. And at the end, we want to know how to keep the most valuable customers, where we are proposing some cross-selling techniques. So let me start with who are our customers. So for better targeting, we analyzed our customers at 2 different angles. Demographics, where we are taking into consideration age, gender, and kids, and behavioral, where we are taking recency, frequency, and monetary value. Why we did those both different analysis? Well, demographic is going to help us to focus on recommendations, and behavioral is going to help us with focusing on most valuable customers. So let me start with demographics. After taking those 3 metrics, we received 5 different groups of customers. We received millennials, hipsters, Generation X, Golden Generation, and seniors. However, the 3 main groups that drive 73% of total revenue and composed of 80% of total customers are hipsters, Gen X, and Golden Generation. So let me guide you through them a little bit. Hipsters, there are 70% of men, and they do not have kids. Gen X, 78% of them are married, and they do have kids. And Golden Generation, they are married, but they don't have kids. All this information is going to help us to reach customers better and to recommend them better products based on the life stage they are. But this analysis is not enough. We also conducted another clustering, which is based on RFM analysis, where clustering is dividing customers into smaller groups, into smaller similar groups. So we took recency, how recent they buy, how frequent they buy, and how much money do they spend. We ran it through an algorithm, and by scoring system, we received 3 different groups of customers again. So we received champions. There are very high valuable customers. They spend a lot. They are very frequent and recent customers. Promising customers, the biggest group. They are fairly frequent, fairly recent, and hibernating customers. And those 2 main groups, champions and promising, generate 76% of total revenue. And on them, we are going to be focusing for future analysis with churn and lifetime value, where Gabriela is going to tell you all about.
All right, thank you, Patty. So now that we understood who our customer is, we want to answer the second question from Maria, which is, who is my favorite customer? Who is the one bringing the most value? And in order to do so, we predicted the customer lifetime value for the next 3 months. Now, why 3 months? That's because 3 months is a period of time which is long enough to organize a marketing campaign, a strong marketing campaign, but also short enough to get up-to-date predictions. Let's look into the model. So the model we use is a statistical model that is called lifetimes. And what it does, it takes the input from the RFM analysis that Patty just explained, and it generates 2 outputs: the lifetime value for the customer and the churn probability for each customer. Now, the level of granularity here is very important because having it at the individual level, it allowed us to really design marketing campaigns that are aligned for each customer. So they're very personalized. And before moving into the findings, I'd like to share something else, which is the reason why we chose a statistical model versus a more traditional machine learning classification model. Reason being, lifetimes is the most popular one used in the retail industry. Looking at the finding, we predicted a CLV of 2.2 million euros in the first quarter of 2019. Now, looking at the chart, we see that, well, the chart shows the evolution of the revenues from 2015 to 2018. And we see that 2.2 million euros is a reduction of 5% with respect to the first quarter of 2018. So this is confirming our initial hypothesis that Maria has a problem. There are less and less customers coming back to the stores. Then we broke down the 2.2 million euros in order to understand what is the root cause of the problem. Who was the customer segment that is bringing the most value? And we took the RFM segmentations and realized that the champions, again, they are the most valuable customer for us in the next 3 months. They bring in more than 50% of the value, even if they're only 14% of the customer base. So they're really, really a key customer for us. We also looked at the second output of the model, if you remember, that is churn probabilities, and realized that across all the segments, the churn rate is actually higher than the industry average in retail, which is 6%. And this is an issue. So what are we recommending to Maria? What are we prioritizing for her? Let's do a quick recap. Champions are the ones that bring the most value to us and have a churn rate that is 8%. It's higher than industry average. So we want to maintain them. We want to nurture them, to make them feel special so that they come back to the store. Second, the promising, they also bring quite a bit of value, over 40%, and they have a very high churn rate, 23%. So we need to aggressively retain them. Finally, hibernating ones, they bring only a small value, which is 6% of the revenues, and have a 100% churn rate, meaning that they're basically living, so we want to deprioritize them and not focus on them at the time. Now, Claudia will talk about the evaluation of the model that we built.
Thank you, Gami. Okay, so in order to assure Maria that our model is doing a good job at predicting churn and no churn, we had to set a threshold to define churn, which for our model is a churn probability higher than the 60%. So for example, a customer with a churn probability of an 80% is going to be considered as churn, while another customer with a churn probability of 40% is going to be considered as an alive customer. But we also needed to see how many churn customers are we correctly predicting a churn. And we have an 80%, an 81%, meaning that out of 10 customers, out of 10 customers who were predicting a churn, only 2 of them are actually alive. And in fact, we don't really care about this because for us, it's much cheaper to send out those 2 extra emails rather than losing a customer without even trying to retain them. So now Andres is gonna explain how do we keep a customer.
Thank you, Claudia. So how do we keep these customers? We've done all of this segmentation, and now we have the meeting with Maria. And in this meeting, we need to propose actions so that we can retain these customers. From all of the options that we had, we really focused on targeted marketing, combining the previous segmentation with a basket analysis. A basket analysis essentially is looking through all of the previous purchases and finding the most ideal grouping so that when you buy something, I will recommend you some other item that is bought most often with this type of item. Some basic examples of a basket analysis you can see here. For example, when you're buying a kitchen, maybe you're buying some drawer organizers, but you may also want to buy some forks and knives. Or if you're buying a table, this one is also really simple, you may want to buy some chairs. How do we turn all of this effort into an actual solution that Maria and her team can use to create value? We created a dashboard, and I'm going to show it to you right now. So this dashboard is live, and this is 3 sections on this dashboard. The first one is the revenue overview, and right now we're looking on the top left side, the revenue per department. And you can see that if we focus on the first department, on the lower side, you can see the evolution of the revenue and the items sold on the year 2018. If we unclick it, we'll see the top departments that performed. On the right side, you have the returning customers per cohort. And this is really key because we can see that for the older cohorts, the general retention is high, whereas if we go to 2015, 16, 17, you can see that there's an issue. That's what we're trying to address with all of these actions. So now let's go to the Customer Overview tab. In the Customer Overview tab, on the left side, you have a distribution of the customer lifetime value for the first quarter based on the percentage. And you can see on the right side that we have the total number of customers, the average churn probability for the group, the total group of customers that we're addressing here. You can also select one of the segments, such as the champions, and you see how all of this data is changing. Now we're seeing only the 12.5 thousand customers with a 7% churn rate, 89 euros of CLV. You can do a further segmentation by actually changing the churn probability that you want to get in. So you get even more segmented results. This can help us understand our customers based on the value side. And so now, if we go back and now we go to the risk and recommendation tab, if you give me 1 second, we're getting there. We'll see, again, on the top left side, the overall churn probability for champions, promising, and hibernating, the projected revenue in euros for 2019, the revenue per segment for 2018, and on the lower side, the recommendation side. So we have for both champions and promising, we did the segmentation before as demographical, as I was saying. So you see the customer ID, then the demographic cluster for personalized marketing, the potential customer lifetime value, the churn probability, what was the last purchase item, and what is the suggestion based on a score that we defined. This is all that I had for the dashboard. Now I'm going to pass you to Andrea, who's going to take the next steps.
Thank you so much, Andres. So now that we've presented our solution, let's see how this translates into monetary terms for our company. If you recall, Gabriela told you that we have predicted a CLV for first quarter of 2019 of 2.2 million. In order to calculate the impact, we have actually computed two different scenarios. In the first one, the no action, we are discounting all of the CLV for the customers that have a probability of churn about a certain conservative threshold. Here we can see a 16% drop compared to the baseline. However, thanks to our tool, we are able to minimize these losses over up to 4 percentage points to 1.9 million euros in the first quarter. If we translate this into yearly terms, we can actually get up to 300K euros in CLV increase, which translates actually into a reduction of losses of 3.3%. If we were to have more time into building on this project, we would perfect our targeting actions by estimating the probability of success of our measures. We would also perfect the recommendations through product bundling, and we would improve the campaigns by identifying which customers have a second residence. However, we have taken a step forward, and we have done a first analysis to this issue. We have calculated that over 8.5% of the transactions in our stores are done in a different city than the preferred store. If we take a look at the trend, we can see clear peaks in Easter holidays, summer, and Christmas, which could also point out that these clients have a second home. And now that you're all facing and thinking on your summer vacation home, we're going to let you go. Thank you so much for your time and your attention, and if you have any questions, they are very welcome.
Thank you very much, guys. So should the jury start? Do you guys have any questions?
Okay, you hear me? Yes.
Thank you.
Good. Okay, thank you for this presentation. I think it's been awesome, by all means. But to be honest, I think in terms of the description of the churn and the life cycle and analysis of what's going on with this company, etc., it's clear. But in terms of solutions, to me, it's a little bit dizzy, you know, and fuzzy, no? So, for instance, you told at some point that 3 months is for you enough to really come up with the predictive models because that links with generally with campaigns, right? So, I understood correctly, or?
Yes. That's what we assume. We thought about different time frames. We took 3 months, 6 months. We aligned also with our client, and we realized that in the end, that a 3 months time would be the best one for us, also given the time constraints that we have.
Okay.
So that's why we picked it.
Okay, in my opinion, so it is not enough. So you need at least 1 year to really understand what's going on with the churn. So probably it's okay as an approach because you're coming up with some campaigns and you can analyze, or you can start analyzing, with 3 months in advance. But for you to understand what's really going on, you need at least 1 year to really understand or to have a really cool approach in terms of what's going on with the churn. And one thing I don't really understand, maybe it's because it's which is the source of your data. I mean, probably you have a backend, you're going to use Mixpanel to get the data, or what's going on, because how you're going to really analyze what's going on, because it's kind of complicated, because also you need to have the systems really interconnected. One of the problems, in my opinion, but maybe I'm wrong, is that the brands suffer many times some kind of Alzheimer. So because the systems are not intelligent enough. So the CRMs are kind of stupid, so they are getting better, but if you are using Soho, or it's stupid. And you have a wide variety of channels in which you are dealing with your customer and you're offering customer experience. So the social media, you get in touch through the CRM, you get in touch through different channels, and that's the problem, that many times are not really coordinated, and you are sending a message sometimes telling your customer happy birthday today, and at the same time, through the email, some department is not really dealing correctly with the customer. The customer is getting cranky because, like, okay, so they're telling me happy birthday, but at the same time, some department is not really recognizing me, and the other department didn't really have the historical of what happened to me, or if I'm really a heavy user or not a heavy user, etc. So, and I was expecting something in terms of, supporting your analysis, something much more sophisticated in terms of which are the roots, which are the sources we are getting the data, and how we are going to deal with the churn rate. Also, something missing is the outliers. How you're going to deal with the customers not really following a visible pattern, repeating problems, etc. So that's the most complicated thing, to deal with. The outliers or people who is not really following a visible pattern, but it's key for your business. And maybe you don't know, or you think no. To summarize, it's very good, your analysis, but I think you need to dig into much more to really solve, the churn problem, which is it's tremendous also for telco companies, for the majority of companies. It's very complicated, and you need to go beyond the spreadsheets, because one of the problems, I also have data scientists, and they really trust too much into, the series, the numbers, the forecasting. But there are a wide variety of problems you cannot really solve using some kind of shallow approaches. But thank you very much. Very, very good.
Thank you. Thank you for the feedback.
May I continue, or you want to?
I'm already moving. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, first, excellent work. I'm actually really impressed, and especially that you were able to do something like this in 12 weeks. That is a very, very impressive analysis for 12 weeks. And your dashboard. I also found your dashboard to be something that can't be undersold, because in a business context, the person who's going to be interacting with this will be a business person who doesn't understand the technical details. So I thought that was fantastic. And I like the way that you approached the question to begin with. So when you were talking about segmentation, you mentioned that you're interested in understanding where the customer is at what point in their life, right? So that's a good business way of starting to look at the problem, but then you're constrained by the data that you have. So the question that I have for you is, you chose 3 features from the demographics in order to segment. Why those 3? And also, I know you're constrained by things because, especially if it's a European customer, then you're probably missing a lot of data. What would have been your ideal data if you did have access to it?
So we choose those 3 because they are the ones we actually got, and it would be really nice to have more information. Like, it would be nice to have information about how many kids they have, or what is their income, or where do they work, what are their hobbies. So that would be ideal, just to have the more data.
But why those?
So age is like the most important, of course, because you are not going to age. Status and gender is the most important. Why? Because by combining them together, you can see that, for example, customers who have kids and customers who don't have kids, they're gonna buy different things. Maybe they're gonna buy children furniture, right? And they also have bigger families, so maybe they're gonna be buying something for bigger house than people who are single, and they're gonna buy something for small flat. So they are like the most important factors, I would say.
And gender, you mentioned?
Gender, yes, gender as well. Actually, because there was the one we got. We have only like 3, so we just combine them together to get better results, better clusters.
Okay.
Thank you.
you.
Just one thing. So, do you think it's the same? Do you think it's the same when a man, in general, drops by a store, a retailer, alone? Do you think this guy is the same choosing furniture or whatever than when he goes with a couple, maybe a woman or another man? It's the same. You think the behavior is the same? You can tell it's the same. It's the same person. But if I'm going with friends to buy into the retailer, or I'm going with my wife, or I'm going alone, probably not everybody is the same person choosing things or spending money. How do you deal with that?
I mean, we understand that contextual information is always going to be important, and we wish that we had more information. In this case, we are bound by the limitations of the data that we acquire. So with the level of data that we had, our only option was to take into consideration the gender, if they were married, if they had kids, and that's why we left it at that. I totally understand your concern around like having more contextual, and the behavior is going to be completely different, right? Because you are, in the end, we are all social animals, and our decisions depend as well on what we are doing and who we are. But for this specific analysis and for our predictions, we needed to work with the data that we got from the customer.
Okay.
And yeah, I will be super fast. So first of all, thank you for the presentation. I really like all the content that you share. Not only the content, but also the format of the presentation was great. I hope you are planning to host everything on Amazon Web Services, because it's going to give you some extra points. That was a promo point. And I just had one question here, because I totally understand the problem, the context, as well as solution proposed. But in terms of the actions that you put there in the dashboard, I think all of these actions were focusing, trying to reduce this churn rate. Okay, that's perfect. But how about trying to transform some of our customers into more champions? I mean, how to try to deal with this transformation that could, at the end of the day, give us also good results there?
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, when we brainstorm on our strategies, we thought, okay, first, in terms of short-term actions, let's try to reduce the churn, especially, you know, for the champions who are bringing in so much money, and for the promising, because they had, I don't know if you remember, the 23% churn rate, which is very, very high. So we thought, okay, in the short term, we want to reduce the churn, and then as a longer-term step, we want to really focus on bringing, you know, transforming promising into champions and bringing in more champions, yeah, in the company as well.
Great.
Great, thank you very much. So I have a comment and a question. The comment is, those are really cool shirts. What's going on with that? Yes, I had to appreciate that. And the second question, so the actual question. You mentioned, for example, Gabriela, how it went from, like, you had to retain very aggressively, no, what was the second group's name?
Promising.
The promising, exactly. So you're retaining very aggressively. Do you have you thought of strategies? Because I think how does that connect to, for example, to what information you see on the dashboard? Like, the idea is that you have a dashboard where you can check how it's going, no, and you can keep track of it. But how do you connect those two? Like, the idea is, for example, the basket analysis, and then from there, you keep tracking it. What was the idea that you had for the aggressive retention?
So I don't know if, Andres, do you want to take this because you work on it?
So we need to remember as well that we're doing, this process is an iterative process, right? So every quarter, every month, or every 2 months, we're reanalyzing the customers to understand where they are in their lifetime. So if our strategy is being successful, and this obviously complements a bit the question that Alejandro was asking, we're actually bringing people who had a higher probability of churn down into a lower probability of churn. So you're essentially making them become more alive, and will be then, as if we are successful, we're bringing them again to become champions or to go from hibernating to promising and all of that stuff. So the relationship here is when we are going to do our marketing strategy. As I was explaining before, we had this idea of the recommendation model that we present. So we did the segmentation. We have both demographical and behavioral components to it. We make targeted campaigns to them so that we can bring them over. And this is going to be kind of like the leading factor that once we do the iteration of this, we already have new data and customers who were moving from one segment to the other overall. I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, so yes, but how is it specifically for the aggressive retention ones? Like, what is it that we would recommend, what we would tell
like
the
actual
company?
specific marketing actions, you mean?
And therefore, what can you read from the dashboard after that? Huh? Like, because you say, like, look, I don't know, go to their house and say hi. That's my strategy. And then how do I measure that on the dashboard if that's actually performing?
I mean, there's things like, for example, coupons, specific coupons that you can give on specific items, but you have to go to a store. And so, again, the main focus of this is let's bring you back to the store. Get to know us again, get to feel alive, and, enjoy buying furniture with us again. Mm-hmm. I got a bit excited of that, I guess. But this is the whole idea, right? So we want people to really enjoy shopping, and that's why we're trying to make it hyper-personal. That's why we're trying to make all of these efforts. And, maybe that's it. We give you a coupon, or we do like a specific advertising for you, like literally for you. Like a big investment, especially for the very large customers, is like the value of this customer is probably going to be, much larger over the lifetime than the investment that we're going to do in making a more personalized email or a specific coupon or a discount in revenue, in their purchase.
I agree. So, great. Thank you very much, guys. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So for the next group, we're going to have Urban Data Analytics. Please take the stage.
All right, well, welcome everybody, and thanks for that MRM. That was amazing. Now we know where to buy furniture and how to do it properly. Now, before I begin my presentation, I want to share with you a little story. The other day, I was talking with my grandmother. She just retired, and she's looking for ways to invest her retirement, right? So she's trying to find some ways to make her remainder of what she wants to spend her life on be as enjoyable as possible. So we were looking into real estate investments. But she has some real hard ideas about it. And she says, never invest in a country where you don't know how it's like, you don't know the city, you don't live there, and you don't know its people. And I'm pretty sure most of you have heard similar things. But what if I told you they might be wrong? So in this presentation, thanks to data and this amazing team, we're going to try to prove them wrong. So without further ado, we're the Urban Data Analytics team. We're conformed by Bea Jimenez, joining us remotely, Carla Santos, Mariel Vic Encarnacion, Sebastián Ramos, and myself, Darío Montes. So I'm going to leave you with my colleague, Mari, who's going to explain a little bit more about the business proposition and our challenge. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Darío, for telling us about your grandmother. Hopefully, by the end of the presentation, we will be able to change her perspective on foreign real estate investments. So today, we're going to talk to you about the company and the business challenge we tackled, the methodologies used, and how it led to the solution and the impact that it had. And at the end, we're going to talk a little bit more about the next steps that will follow. So Darío's grandmother is currently interested in buying a property in order to rent it. That's why she's going to be using the services of Urban Data Analytics, which was founded in 2015 as a property technology company that provides real estate valuations and indicators through big data and artificial intelligence. They focus on producing, structuring, and analyzing information that minimizes risks when it comes to real estate investments. One of the ways they provide value to their customers is by a real estate data platform that tells the user whether a certain property is worth investing on or not right on the spot. That way, they can maximize the return on their investment. They have two types of clients. One of them could be the institutional investors who require advisory services from Urban Data. They account for 50% of the transactions that the company registers. After that, we have a second group, which would be the individual international investors that are the real estate platform users, and they also account for the other 50% of the transactions. In this presentation, we're going to focus on this group as Darío's grandmother belongs to it. Currently, Urban Data is looking forward to increasing the number of clients that use the real estate data platform. In that sense, we conceived our business challenge as designing a tool that will provide complementary information to all those individual international investors that want to rent in Madrid. So if you're not from Madrid, just as the five of us, let me quickly introduce you to it. Madrid can be defined as a vibrant and multicultural city that attracts a lot of different kinds of people. It offers a wide range of cultural and leisure activities that can be enjoyed by locals and tourists. It also attracts a lot of international and local students, and it has some of the best universities in Spain. And it's also a destination for business people because some of the most important corporations have their Spanish headquarters here. So having said this, you can imagine that Madrid might seem like a good place to invest in order to rent, as it has a lot of influx of people coming in every year in order to work and live here. But still, our grandmother is not convinced about investing here. So a study provided us with the fear gap, which is the lack of confidence in the real estate market. And it's fitted by three factors. The first one being the complexity of the real estate market behavior. So we need to help our grandmother to understand the basics of supply and demand, and the interaction between them. The second factor would be the information gap, which is defined as information not being detailed and accessible enough in order to make a well-documented decision when investing. And the third factor would be not being able to trust platforms or technology. There's a fear of innovation, as 90% of the transactions in the real estate industry are still made through an agent or a realtor. Now, I'm going to leave you with my colleague Carla, who's in the other side of the world, and she's going to tell you about the first challenge.
Thank you very much, Maria Albeck. Let us introduce a little bit of economic theory to help Darío's grandma understand Madrid's rental market. In general terms, the real estate rental market involves the interaction of two main participants. First, the house owners, such as Darío's grandma, who set the supply by establishing the amount they must be paid for renting their properties, as well as how many properties will be available for rent. And the house renters, who set the demand by establishing how much they can pay for renting a property and how many properties will exit the market. Now, Let's go back to our granny's city of interest, Madrid, to explore the rental market supply and demand. Here we have Madrid. Each dot shown represents a property that is available for rent. The dots displayed in the map represent the real market supply week by week, and all the dots appearing represents new properties available for rent. Inversely, the dots that disappear from the map for a period longer than 4 weeks represents the demand. As for the purposes of this analysis, this means that the properties were rented. Now that we know what supply and demand, let's see what influences them. So, what influences supply? The number of landlords, such as our granny, their expectations and government policies, such as grants, incentives, taxes, and licenses. Let's see an example. Imagine that the owners of houses similar to our grannies decide to enter the market. Then, the rental price for our granny's property will drop due to an increase in supply. On the other hand, the demand is influenced by the number of renters, their tastes and expectations, the price of similar properties, and changes in the economic environment. Let's see a quick example. Suppose that the number of people interested in our granny's property dramatically increases. Then, the price of her property will rise due to an increase in demand. Now that we understand supply and demand, let's see it in Madrid's rental market. This graph shows the percentage of houses that were rented week by week and the fluctuation of the price per square meter. The price per week generally goes up with increases in demand. However, it doesn't always happen since changes in demand take time to alter prices. Moreover, our brief explanation of market supply and demand is an oversimplification of reality. Definitely, investing in the rental market is not an easy task. So, we found it necessary to develop a machine learning model to predict the behavior of the market. In this industry, when we talk about machine learning models, we talk about linear regression models, which are basically the process of predicting a numerical value. Linear regression models are highly constrained on what they can predict. Actually, by running hours, we can only explain 64% of the change in rental price. So we ask ourselves, what if we could find a better model that fits a tool aimed at obtaining a more accurate prediction to help foreign individual investors such as Dario's granny? Now that we have seen the first challenge, my colleague Bea will introduce you to the second one, the information gap.
Let me break a little bit the presentation here by saying that Carla was supposed to be here. She's currently in the Dominican Republic, but she was not allowed to fly here, not because of COVID, but because she's 8 months pregnant. She's due in less than a month. So I want to, show a little appreciation to her, and, congratulations. We love you, Carla. And now, let me pick up where she left. She has explained us the market behaviors of the rental market, and I'm going to try to explain the second challenge, which is the information gap. What is this information gap? As many of you can relate, whenever you have to do a big investment, you sometimes have the feeling that the seller is hiding you information, that he knows something that you don't. And our granny, of course, is feeling something like that. So what can we do to try to minimize that fear? We are confident that with data we can overcome that fear. What usually an investor sees when trying to rent or when trying to invest in a property? Information listings, information regarding the property itself. However, we have realized that only the information regarding the house is not enough. We have supplied our granny, or we will be supplying our granny with building information, also with the area nearby information, finally neighborhood, and last but not least, district, region, and country, but that was beyond the scope of our analysis. However, it is also worth noting that the listing itself also has a big impact in the price of the house. What is property and building information? As many of you can relate, we call we recognize those items in regular listings. Things like size, address, number of rooms, those are properties information. Regarding building, we are also used to that kind of features, but we don't realize that those belong to the building. If it has a flat, how far is it from the distance from the center? If it has a swimming pool. This is where we started to take an innovative approach to our problem, which is that only the information regarding the property and the building was not what a house owner considers relevant for the analysis or for making a decision. And we consider that also what is surrounding the property is important. So I'm going to give you a couple of seconds to think what you consider important, what is close to your house. Okay? We have come up with some ideas. What about hospitals or schools or pharmacies or, this is things that we all can tell that are important. So we have defined a proxy that is everything you can reach in a 5 or 10 minute walk, and we have inputted it. Okay? Also, the neighborhood the house belongs is also important. Not only because we have counted the amount of hospitals in a neighborhood, but also because we have taken into account some demographics. And taking all into account has led us to a better machine learning model. Okay, where have we gotten all that information? Of course, we have started by listings, because Urban Data provided us with 50 weeks of listings, but we realized that was not enough, and we had to dig into local open data repositories, regional open data repositories, and also official statistics portals. Finally, so that you can take a glimpse of the amount of work it was, we started with 17 variables, and we ended up at 82. But we could have gone on. So with all this, we were able, and after some processing, of course, and a couple of for loops, we were able to build a better prediction model that gave us the rental price, the expected rental price, of course, the expected listing time, and the supply and demand on a neighborhood in the coming month. Is this enough? Will our granny be happy with this? Probably not, because she's not going to see anything. So we had to come up with an innovative idea how to present that to our granny. And this is what my colleague Sebas is going to tell you about.
Thank you, Bea. Now we're going to jump to the third challenge, which is the fear of innovation. How we're going to do this, we're going to introduce our granny to the wonders of modern technology. It's not just about the information, it's how it's provided. And for this, I'm just not going to tell it to you. You're going to show it to yourself. We're going to do a little experiment. I'm going to show you the exact same information in 2 different ways. You will have 3 seconds to record as much information as you can, as you can from it. And then you have to process that internally because we're running out of time. Here we have. Not much, right? Let's try with the other format. Well, I think the idea here is clear. That it's easier and faster to be informed if the information is displayed in a correct way. But will be this enough? We consider no. Why? Well, because we have the power of data analytics on our side. Because with this power, we have predicted demand and supply for our granny, tackling the first challenge. We have provided her with relevant and reliable information, tackling the second challenge. But displaying in a better way doesn't feel like much innovation to us. What about we give her the power to play with information as she's playing with the ingredients of her favorite recipe? This will give her a unique, personalized experience every time she jumps into our platform. And we're going to do it as Urban Data Analytics. Well, I think this is the moment we've been waiting for. This is the display of our solution. She starts in the web page, and she looks at demographics per neighborhood. Now she focuses on supply and demand for the next month, which we predict. And she realizes she focuses on embajadores. She considers having parking spots is important, so she jumps to it. And now She can go as simple as getting a link from a platform, put it in there, and we're going to provide her with the circles of information we have told you about. Property, building, circle, neighborhood, information, and then our recommendation for the renting. She looks at even bars to the detail of closing hours, and we will provide her even with a PDF report of the highlights for property, building, and neighborhood. Well, I think now it begs the question, what's the real benefit for our client? The first thing we see is Urban Data, is now charging a discount price because the platform is still in early access, in an early stage. With all these features we've been adding, we feel we can really go to the expected price that we're hoping to charge in the beginning. They have currently 1,000 clients. They will translate into 20,000 euros immediately and 240,000 in the year. But not only this, because we see this as a triple win situation. Urban Data benefits, our granny benefits, that's clear. But even another person benefits from this. The person that is going to live there. Because she invests to rent it, then the renter can benefit from our solution. Continuing with the 1,000 current clients, we expect to charge for the people interested in renting a place 10 euros per week of access to our platform to be able to know the surroundings without even having to visit the city. This will translate in total to 360,000 total in a year. Now I'm going to leave you with Dario to go into the next steps of what our solution will look like.
Thank you, Sebastian, and I hope you all enjoy what our platform looked like. Just as a small recap, this is our proposed solution for everything. And if we had a little bit more time, which we don't, sadly, what would be our next steps? So the idea would be to connect our properties with even more information with its surrounding. So we would try to find a way to automate the data collection because it was a very tedious and manual job, and it took some time. But after doing so, we are confident that in a few months, perhaps, we could do a better way of doing it. Find better detailed information about the building listings, which by the time that we were constrained by the year. They were not sufficient. Also, we'll try to implement this solution to see how it adapts and how it works in a different city. Because of course, we've been working for 3 months in Madrid. How fast or how long would it take us to try a new city? Then the idea is to have our tool that is ever changing, ever evolving, and it's always trying to stay up to date. And finally, to create a network of owners with all the other investors like my granny who can probably share tips and share their experiences and see what other city might be of interest. Finally, investing in the real estate market has been an issue. I hope you can all see it's not as easy, but my grandma started a little bit scared, and thanks to this amazing team, we managed to make her happy, a homeowner and trying to rent some place in Madrid in Embajadores, and above all, I'm a great grandkid because I helped her doing that. So thank you, all of you, for listening to us, for staying with us, and it's been great. Thank you.
All right, can you guys hear me? Okay, so great job. You are all fantastic presenters. I loved your storyline, so it was a pleasure to watch you. I have a couple of questions. So first, just to clarify, when you were showing your model that was explaining the price of an apartment, you said that 64% of that was explained, right?
Yes.
Okay, so there was something that I noticed about the features that you put up. What features could you put just in the modeling alone that you think would increase the accuracy of the model?
So at first, what we did was, sorry if that part was a little bit unclear, but that's the first idea of the first approach of the model, which is a linear regression model, which is the typical model used in the industry. When we got the 64% of variance explained, the amount of price change of price explained, it was with the initial 17 columns or variables that our client gave us. So after analyzing them and seeing which ones we could use, the one that explained the most out of all of them, the most useful one was size. And that's size and rooms. We didn't have information about bathroom, for instance, which we would love to add, but our data did not collect it. But that is, for instance, in the future next steps. So I don't know if that answers.
So that part I understand. My question is more about what external data could help you understand?
Sorry. So from the external data, after seeing that, we said it was not enough. We decided to go for things like metro stations. And actually, out of the things that we added, we expected metro stations to be one of the most things that helped boost our model, but it was not. It was average income. So the average income sort of helped increase the accuracy in terms of price. So average income, we also had markets, and schools. Those three were really good variables when we added them and not outperformed size, but it really helped explain it.
I think that's a really fantastic start, and the big piece of advice that I would give you is we all know an event that happened recently that obviously affected the market, right? So using GDP data, economic data, that will improve your model significantly. And my other question is just, it's more of a business question. So you mentioned the fear of innovation. As a product manager, that is something that I deal with all of the time. Do you think that giving people more information is going to make them less scared of innovation and is going to make things easier on them? Is it about giving more information and as much information as you possibly can? Or can you think of other solutions?
Yeah, that's why we focus. Like the second is the information. We definitely collect a lot of information. But when you see in the solution, you have access to all that, but it's not everything at once. Because, for example, the little example I did, the little experiment, is literally went to the 3 main portals in Spain, and it was all this information was kind of there implied because the client knows it's relevant, but it's just all given as a text. It's all just given completely. So then we decided that would be our innovation, not just making it graphically because it could be overwhelming, but also to let her choose what she needs, to let her see, like, if I just want this, I can just select this. It doesn't have to be a huge, complicated thing. And that also was the purpose of the PDF, to have like something more like a structure and something more digestible.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, I agree that it's not about more information. It's about the right information.
It's more about quality than quantity, definitely.
Great job, guys.
So first of all, thanks again for the presentation. It was great. I totally understand the problem, and I have to say that we are working with a lot of startups here at AWS trying to solve this same challenge in the real estate market. That is a great market to work with nowadays. I would love to see your grandma using your solution in a video at the end of the presentation. We'll rock it. But I had a couple of questions. One about the business model. I'd really appreciate that you put the business model in your presentation and you make some numbers to know the benefits you're going to have there. But in order to extract all of this information, you're going to need to use a lot of different data sources. And most of these data sources are not really cheap. I mean, you're going to need to invest a lot of money there. You already made all of the calculation about how it's going to cost and how much it's going to cost in order to know exactly the money or the price that you needed to put out all of the different users you're going to have or not?
Thank you. So yes, that's part of our next steps. We wanted to automate the data collection. Most of the new information we added was publicly accessible information, so there's no cost in terms of accessing it. It's all free in open data portals and Open Madrid. So building an API system that would have helped us pinch it and sort of make it automatic is what we aspire to do, but we lacked time to do it, so we have to do it manually. In terms of the paid information, that is given by our client. And in that sense, we didn't have access to see more or less the amount of, because they do have different various data sources. Okay. And we didn't have time to go over all the data sources that they have and where we could improve on it. So we could only get an initial data, the state it was, and from what we could do with a limited budget was obviously going public and trying not to extend our budget on that. But also my colleague Bea, who killed it with this, can explain you a lot more.
I just wanted to comment that the base price Urban Data is already charging their customers has already included this price of getting these listings information. Mm-hmm. And we have added, and the additional computation of the additional earnings we are proposed have no cost because, as Dario mentioned, they are public information sources.
Okay. Okay, I just wanted to understand that you were using exactly a data source that could provide you with the data you needed and the cost that you needed there. And my second question was about the solution itself. I saw a lot of different information about, the location intelligence. It was great. But what about the information that you can get from the people trying to invest money? I mean, from your grandma, for example, why didn't you ask her a couple of questions to try to qualify the kind of property that she was looking for? To try to remove part of the information that I saw there, because at the beginning you presented the map of Madrid, and I saw a lot of red areas, and to be honest, I don't want to invest in a red area. I don't know why I'm looking at that. Yeah, okay.
That's good. The red areas represent that was supply and demand. So the red areas in terms of supply was when supply was higher than what it normally was. When supply is higher, then prices tend to go down. You have to compete against other property owners and prices will go down. Whereas when it was green is because supply was lower than the average of that neighborhood. And demand, when is the other way around, when demand was green, it means there was a lot of properties exiting that neighborhood and what we calculated, so it means demand was really high. And it was red, there was not a lot of movement. So that's what that was. And answering your second question. And your first question, that because we wanted to create a profile, the original idea we had was create a profile for my grandma, because we understand that she's one specific client, and many others might have different other ideas or perceptions that they want to look at. The issue with that is that we would have to get also into a little bit into, when we talked with our client, into what risk management was, and we didn't want to go into it because we would have to rate the neighborhoods according to the person and the profile we were doing. So that was a little bit of a complication that we didn't have the time to sort of englobe and properly transmit. So we did, as a first step, as a first approach, just a general aspect of how someone who she still can choose what information she finds relevant. Perhaps for her, she's interested in Metro. Perhaps for her, she's interested in the average study or average level of income per neighborhood, so she can filter that out, but she would have to do it at this moment manually. Perhaps in the future, as a recommendation for urban data, it would be great to sort of filter this by, obviously by candidate or by person using the platform. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Awesome presentation. Yeah, you're very, very good, top-level presenters. I know this is kind of a beta approach, but when you say we're going to automatize data collection, I'm missing something more, because I know you have the knowledge, profound knowledge, but I'm missing how you're going to identify, the data resources and some kind of bullet points like these are going to be our CRM systems. We're going to use Amazon Web Stats or Crazy Egg or some kind of predictive analytics. And also the feedback, how you're going to deal with the feedback from reviews, from social media, or also missing something in your platform with reviews, in which you have a customer event window and then a performance review about that, and that's also cool for predictions. I'm missing some kind of things. Probably you're going to add, because this is a beta. And also, as you know, so the new businesses in this century are going to come up directly from data. I remember talking to I don't know if you're familiar with mobility, talking to this brand City, City. So I was talking to them in the very beginning, and they were asking me about coming up with that service. And I told you, okay, there's room, because you have electric cars, you have car2go, etc. But there's room for new businesses if you are able, using APIs or public access to the data, and you check what's going on with your competitors. You can improve that in analyzing the data and then coming up with a new solution covering different needs. So I'm missing from you something like, okay, probably it's not as good as our platform, but there are some people doing this, dealing with this info, and we are going to improve these things they are not really doing, with your platform. But the rest is perfect. Thank you very much.
So, great, guys. It was a great presentation, I agree. So I have a question that is a bit of a summary question for all of the project that you've done. If I asked you now, look, Urban Data Analytics has decided that the 5 of you are hired, and we're going to do this. But we would like to start, like next city we're interested is London. What would be the main things that you would identify, like, okay, this is we would really have to be careful with this, this, and this. What are the main, like 2, 3 things that you think you should, before we start that project and we go right into it, what are the main things that you think would require your attention?
Well, one of the, I will base my my answer on the challenges we face, because there were definitely a lot. So one of the first things we noticed was when getting all this information, when we used to get it from different portals, things as small as one accent in the name of the neighborhood generated an entire mess with null values or values non-existent. And then we run the model, we did everything, the preprocessing, the scaling, and then in the 300 line of code, something happened, we have to go back to the data frame. We even joke with it because all the time we were updating GitHub with, this is the last 1.2, and then there was 1.3, and then 1.4, and then we moved to 2.1, and then we have to go back to 1.2. So in that sense, I will really feel like it would be better to streamline that data collection process and have these things of like the accents really, really in mind, because that do affects a lot. The second thing I will have in mind is this holistic approach. I feel like this kind of framework that we built to approach the real estate is something that created value, because it's not seeing the property as something abstract. It's part of a geographical space, which contains, as we have said it, the property is the inner circle. It contains the building, it contains the 500 meter or 5-minute walk ratio, as well as the neighborhood, as the neighborhood is a part of the city. So of course, we will recommend and really start with this approach of, okay, let's just not focus on the property, which is what everyone is doing, but also let's get information from these other circles, which in our model we saw were relevant. And well, for the third, I think what Ina said is nice, that collecting the information about economic factors and all this, we really didn't have the time to do so. And when we talked with our client, it was really focused on the demand and these things, that we were kind of really tight in that sense to be treating all the time these geographical variables. But we will definitely benefit more if we could have other factors, because as Carla really explained it, it's not easy. It's really what she explained is oversimplified. And the factors that affect are many different factors. It's not just location. So in that sense, I think we would like also to have some different data.
Great. Thank you very much, guys. Congratulations. For everyone online, we're now going to move into the graduation.
Hi, everyone. Hi again. In the first moment, congratulations to the bootcampers. Great job. Well done. And please, great applause for them. Great applause. And thanks a lot to the jury. Excellent jury. Please, a great applause for them, too. And now is the special moment of the day. Before awarding the diplomas, I want to tell you one thing. The next edition will be next September, at the end of September. And the Spanish version will be at the end of November. It's very important for us to tell that message, you know. And now is the moment of truth, the awarding of diplomas, okay? We are starting with Andrea Cordero López. Claudia Antola Sedano. Patricia Golek. Gabriela Trentín. Andrés Eduardo Morales. Darío Montes. Congratulations. María Elvich Encarnación. She's online. Carla Santos. Beatriz Jiménez. And Sebastián Ramos. Okay. Last message is probably tomorrow, probably next week, we will send you the diploma in paper format. These diplomas will be made with blockchain technology, but the authentic is this, the format paper. Okay. And do you want to?
Yes. So, guys, you made it. It's done. So the last thing I want to say is that I keep talking throughout the whole bootcamp about how this alumni network is amazing and you guys have had to contact them and have access to them, no? You have now officially become alumni, so congratulations for that as well. So there's one last thing I'd like to ask you, that we're going to have a lot of upcoming editions, as Martino was saying, no? Next year we have 4 more editions of the bootcamp, and we're going to be asking you guys to help these people coming after, no? Help them identify everything you've learned, everything you learned from now until then, your new jobs, your new projects you're going to be working on, like help them grow, right? The idea is that we're creating an amazing community, that we can help each other out, that can transfer the information, especially in the world of data science, which is a world that evolves extremely quickly, right? The idea is that you might, when you're there first line doing the job yourself, it's a lot easier to help someone that's trying to grow, right? So we're creating an amazing community here, and as you already know, well, we have Ina here who came right just to be able to be the jury here today. So absolutely amazing. I have to say as well, Alejandro and Antonio, please, thank you so much for your time and for your dedication and your questions and the intensity of the questions, right, Antonio? It was great. Thank you, really, thank you very much. It was great having you. And of course, all of the amazing professors that are here in the back and all the other professors that are helping us out. Guys, you're absolutely amazing. This would not be possible without you. So thank you very much and just enjoy. Let's all have a nice dinner tonight.